Check her out. Watch her do what she does. And anybody watching, remember, make that little extra time for your little ones and for family. Yeah, the work is going to be there. Yeah, you got things you got to do. And my man not even paying attention to the way he driving. But listen, oh, how are people driving around here? Anyway, make sure you take the time out, spend that little time with your young ones, with your family when you can. Makes a difference. The work is still going to be there. Don't trouble the work. You can make all the money in the world and lose out on opportunities that you can never get back. I made that mistake before. Not gonna make that mistake again. So took some time off, and now I'm actually headed home to rock out with these progress reports today and just relax. So I canceled my sessions for today. I'm just gonna take it easy and get some work done. But I wanna share this with you guys. I pray everything is well. Also, shout out to Ethel and Annie Mae's Soul Food, 497 Albany Avenue, Brooklyn, New York. Crown Heights section of Brooklyn. She's on Grubhub, she's on Uber Eats, and she mails out meals around the country. So check out Ethel and Annie Mae's Soul Food Kitchen, owner and operator Chef Danielle on Facebook. Okay, check this out. Death, right, is a release. Now, once you can get past the pain, and here's what I mean by death is a release. And I want you to pay attention to this, and hopefully my signal will hold up. You know, this was a very, very difficult week. I started off the week with the loss of a teammate, classmate, and fellow educator. Shout out to Carl. All right. My condolences to your family, and my prayers are with your family. Started off the week with finding out over the weekend of a passing of a good friend, my age, of course, and that's very scary. And then I find out the day before or yesterday morning that my aunt, who had taken ill very quickly, was fighting. And then God said, no, this is not a fight. She's going to win. And so within a matter of a couple of weeks, she was gone. And I didn't know about it until, let's see, I found out yesterday, Thursday, and I think it was Tuesday. Tuesday, I was told that she was even in the hospital and that she had been not feeling well for the last couple of weeks. And I normally talk to her at least once a month since we published her book, since we helped her publish her book, and she has been doing outstanding things since last spring. Yeah, I think last spring is when no, I think we did it before that. But she has been rocking out with her book. She wrote a math book for kids of color, and she had all these schools lined up to purchase the book as well as to have her come and speak about it. So she had set up her exit strategy from teaching. But God had other plans. And you know, there's a Yiddish term that says man plans and God laughs. And it just simply means you can put everything in the world in place that you want. When God says that's it, that's it. And that's what I'm leading to today. That death is a release. Once you get through the pain, it is a release of life, but it's also a release of the worry, the fret, and you have to take that release as an opportunity to do something else. Do we want our loved ones to depart this plane? No, we do not. Do we want our loved ones to leave us in violent ways? No. In subtle ways? No. We don't want them to leave at all. No, and the younger they are, the harder it is to deal with because we start thinking about how much life they could have had. Well, here's what I want to release you from. This is why I said death is a release. Death is actually a great time to release yourself from bad habits, to release yourself from certain mindsets, and to release yourself from certain behaviors. The death of somebody close to you, the death of somebody that you love, once you can get past the pain, and that is the hardest part. Now, I didn't say get past the memories. The memories are never going anywhere. Okay, unless you have some type of brain damage, the memories are never going to go anywhere. But once you can orchestrate the pain, once you can get past the pain, you can spring yourself forward after the death of someone that you love. I want you, and I want you to hear that because I know it's difficult. And I'm not making light of death by no stretch of the imagination. None of us want to die. Some of us are not scared to die. Nobody wants to die. Let me just say that. But death is a good starting point because it is now you're forced to have to live life without that person. You don't have a choice in it. God has the final say so. And if you don't believe in God, then life itself comes with an expiration date. Unfortunately, none of us know. So even if you don't believe in God, know that all of us have a clock that has an X amount of sand in it. And when that sand is done, it is done. And I've really been thinking about this heavily this week. And actually, I was thinking about it already with the passing of my friend Carl. Oh, I'm sorry. Shout out to my Aunt Janora. I want to give names to those that are not here because after a while, we tend to just kind of shove it to the background. No, shout out to my Aunt Noni. Shout out to Janora. You was about to do some big things, but you did some big things while you were here. And she's a Zeta, so shout out to her fraternity. But I want to say this. The opportunity that presents to you once somebody is no longer here is immeasurable. Because now you have, if you can choose to, and choose to use it, extra motivation. Push yourself to either live out the days that you got in a different way, add something to the portfolio that wasn't there, just to do something different. So you see, death is a release. And I've really been thinking about it this week with the passing of my man Carl because it's like we went to the same college, we played ball together, we were in the same field together, we were married, we have children, and he's not here. Wow. And he's not the first friend that I've lost. I've lost a few, and it hurts every one of them. And of course, I've lost my mother, lost my grandmother. Tiff lost her mother. Tiff lost her father, lost her grandmother. And God knows all the people in between, the aunts, the uncles, the cousins, and everybody else that's no longer here. But the reason why I don't react to death like other people do, and sometimes people consider me insensitive, and it's okay. It's okay for you to feel whatever way you want about me when you are grieving the same person I am. I don't have a problem with you thinking I'm insensitive because from your point of view, I am. Now, let me say that again. From your point of view, I am insensitive. But what I really am is I don't have the same sensitivities about death that you do. I don't react the same way. Sometimes I joke, I laugh, and that offends. Some people get very bent out of shape, and they're like, "How could you laugh and how could you play?" Because I do. It's how I grieve, actually. I grieve by looking at a situation, considering what I think or believe the person would have wanted from me, and then I rock out. And then I say, okay, I'm going to continue to be me because that's who that person loved. So again, I release myself from my pain by trying to be not only more of who I am, but making sure I remain exactly who I was in some capacity to that memory of that person. But I use death as an opportunity to push myself forward. My grandmother's passing was devastating to me because the liver cancer that she had ate her away quickly. And it was hard to see a woman of so much life to have it snatched out of her that way. But here's what I took from her death. She pulled it all together. Let's see, the last time I seen her live, she was having problems speaking and she wasn't lucid. But that last time when me and Tiff were sitting in the hospital, it's almost as like she willed herself to pull it together. And she called me over and said, it's your time now. You got to lead. And then she called Tiff over, and with the two of us leaning over, she mustered everything she had, and she said, God is going to bless y'all with a child. The reason why I know she mustered together, you could see that she was focusing hard. And I could tell because when she was holding me, I could feel her squeezing me as she was talking. And I said, okay, old lady. And she said, you hear me? I said, I hear you. And I knew when I walked out of Franklin Hospital right there in Long Island, I knew when I walked out of that hospital that day, I was never going to see her alive again because I wasn't coming back. Now, I didn't tell anybody. I didn't even tell Tiff. I had made my decision after seeing my grandmother in that state that I was not coming back to the hospital. Well, within 2 weeks, yeah, she went into hospice and she died the first night in hospice. And the reason why, if I know my grandmother like I know my grandmother, once she got the hospice, and that's where they basically make sure you're not in any pain until you pass. That was when she was at her most comfortable of knowing I did everything that I could do. Okay, Lord, let's go. Because she never, and I remember all the years when I living with her, she would always tell me, I don't ever want to end up like some of these folks that she was dealing with in the nursing home. And I know that the first night she went into hospice, her passing was because she was like, I'm done. Let's go. And she left. But here's the blessing. And I've told y'all this story before, but if I haven't, and I'm going to show you how death is a release. Once my grandmother released and transitioned, she died on the 3rd of July. 2 days later, the 5th, is when Tiff and I found out that we were pregnant with KL. So you see, the release of one spirit planted the seed of the next. So now, those of you that don't believe in God, it's okay. Like I said, you don't have to. I do. And I have enough belief for you when you show up if you decide you ever want to make the transition. I got you. But let me tell you this. Remember what I just said to you. Her last words to Tiff and I is, God is going to bless you with a child. What I didn't know is that she would be gone when we found out the word of that. Now that's the first thing. Second thing, my grandmother told me since I was a baby, you're going to preach this word. And I used to be like, come on, grandma, ain't nobody trying to hear that. Will you stop? Why you keep saying that? She said, I don't care what you say. I don't care what you think. You're going to preach this word. And I'm like, yeah, old lady, ain't nobody got time for that. As I got older, same thing. When I would hit the streets, come in drunk and everything else, stinking of whatever I was doing the night before. You could do whatever you want, boy. You can't run from God. You're going to preach this word. And then she would always end it with, even if it's at my funeral, you're going to preach this word. And I was like, oh, grandma, ain't nobody trying to talk about your death? Come on now. Because like many of you, and myself included, I avoided even the conversation of death. Because it was something about trying to talk about the death of somebody while they're alive that just wasn't working for me. So when to hear my grandmother say, even at my funeral, you going to come to God, I was like, ugh. But let me show you the blessing before my grandmother passed. I had the luxury in 2016. No, I'm sorry. Let me take that back. In 2006, I had the luxury of turning back to the Lord and giving my life to the Lord. And when I say giving my life to the Lord, it was changing the direction that I was taking with my life. And I went back to Bible study and I actually started to become a student of the faith. That's another reason why I don't push the faith on anybody, because if you're really a student of the Christian faith, you realize trying to assault somebody with the faith is just not part of the faith. Anyway, and my grandmother was watching, and one day we were sitting at the kitchen table, and she had quoted a scripture the wrong way. And we had studied this scripture in Bible study. We had studied this scripture in Bible study, and I said to her, "Oh, lady, you know you got that scripture wrong, right?" And she was like, what? I said, you got that wrong. It was the charity scripture. It was the right hand doesn't let the left hand know what it's doing. You know, y'all get that scripture so jammed up. Matthew 6 or 7, where it's like the right hand is not supposed to let the left hand know what it's doing, and so forth and so on. And y'all equate that to it's okay to hide money in one hand and not let anybody know, and y'all equate it to keeping money from somebody, which is not the case. It is about charity. It is like I explained to my grandmother, when you give somebody a loan or a charity, or you do something good for somebody, you don't then run down the block and say, hey, I did good for so-and-so, that you can get the credit. You stay quiet, and God will reward you, because the right hand does not talk about what the left hand is doing. God already sees, and God will reward you. Now, when I explained what I just explained to you to my grandmother, I saw her close her Bible, and I thought I had offended her. I thought I had did something disrespectful. She closed her Bible and she started crying. And I'm sitting there because I don't know what I did. And I didn't speak in a tone or anything. And I said, what's the matter? Did I do something? And she hugged me and she said, I told you. I told you you would come to understand this word no matter what you did in your life. And I smiled and I said, okay, old lady, you right. You right. And let me tell you the benefit of that story. So the next week, they had a registration for Bible study, and I had already went through what was called the Red Book, which is their introductory. It's 36 weeks of study in this particular book about the Bible. You actually read the Bible from Genesis to Revelations, and you study weekly. So now I was on to the next book, which was the study of Genesis and Exodus, and Luke and Acts, which is the birth of the world, birth of the church. So I'm sitting there talking to my partner, Mike, and we're talking. He said, yo, isn't that your grandmother? And I looked and I thought something happened because she knew I was at Bible study. And I come over and said, old lady, what you doing here? And she said, if you can study this word and teach me something that I didn't know, then maybe it's time for me to come here and learn some more about this word here. And I was like, wow, I was blown away. So let me say this to anybody watching, because it was at her funeral, holding a microphone 3 feet from her casket. And I didn't say this at the funeral. When I looked over and saw her laying there very peacefully, I realized he was right. You were right all along, old lady. You knew because God told you. Because you told me 40 years earlier, 50 years earlier. Now I'm 54, so 40 years, 40 plus. And so, again, if you don't believe, you don't believe. It's okay. I'm not here to indoctrinate you into the faith. What I want you to understand is that when somebody dies, it is a release. It is the opportunity to release yourself from certain feelings, certain thoughts. And if done right, you can use what has happened in your life as the springboard to being a different and better you with the time that you have left. So it's easy. And that's why I said, once you can get past the pain blocks everything. The pain and the grieving will always prevent you from just in being you. But once you can get past the pain, death is an ultimate release. Because now it's just you and your memories, and you can take them with you wherever you go. And so for me this week, with the death of my friend and the death of my aunt, two people that I had two different relationships with, it makes me realize not only do I got work to do, I got changes to make. Because there's too many people out there I need to help. And I got to get better at being me with the time that I have. Because no man knoweth the day or the time that Jesus will return, and no man or no woman knoweth the day or the time when God says, that's it, come home. And I think we take it too much for granted. That's another reason why when somebody dies in a way that we don't expect, and that means old, that's all that means. When somebody dies, and we always say died too soon, and I always go, too soon for what? Too soon based on what? If God said you don't know when, what is too soon? Too soon to our own expectations, too soon to our own fears, too soon to our own thoughts. But God is above our thoughts. He even said that. Now, if you guys are watching, be like, see, if you really pay attention to the Bible and get past the emotional part that people want to swing back and forth, it actually offers great guidance in how to stay focused. So, as I said, death is a fantastic release if you can allow yourself to see it. Because you're still here, you have a chance to be something different. You have a chance to be somebody different. Death is final for the person who's dead. It's not final for us who are still on this side of the living. So when you don't see me get emotional to your liking or feel I'm disrespectful, here's why I always laugh, which comes off as disrespect too, but it's okay. Here's why I laugh. How do you say I'm disrespecting the person who's dead when the person who's dead has no connection to none of us? Tell the truth. You're offended because my reaction doesn't meet your expectations or your thought process. I understand, and I don't get offended, but it's not going to change my message, and it's not going to change how I grieve. I grieve for those that I love by trying to be better and trying to do more because I don't know when my time is coming. And I'm not looking to run it down. I'm not trying to. And neither should you. Take their memories, add them to your own motivation, amp up your motivation, and be more of who you are or become somebody totally different if you need be. I don't know who needed to hear this today. And if you need to share this out, share it. You should have liked this by now. Hopefully I gave you reason to like it. Share this on your page. Tag somebody who's lost somebody recently. This is why I'm a crisis specialist. This is why when I say bring me your pain, I was built for this. My calm, cool, collected demeanor is my gift. So when you come to me with your pain over who you lost, I'm good. And I'm not good in an arrogant way. I'm good in a godly way. Because God created me this way. And you think that I'm a little bit different than the other counselors that you've been with? You're right. I am. Because there's only one me. I'm different than the other therapists that you might have been with. You're right. I don't see therapy the same as everybody else. I didn't see education the same way everybody else did. I see a lane that I'm in and I rock with it. And it's not going to make everybody happy. I don't see suit and ties the way everybody else do. I don't take life as serious as everybody else does. And that's going to rub off and piss some people off. Why don't you stop playing? Here's what I hear. I just don't like the way you move. It's okay. You're entitled. It's not going to change because you're upset. Because in the end, all we can be is who we are at the moment. And whoever you choose to be right now, today, watching this, if you're watching this, you are who you are as you watch this. Now, if you want to affect tomorrow, which you'll never see, understand this, you will never see tomorrow. You are always in a constant state of right now. But what you will have available to you is your memories. That's why death is a fantastic release. Because when you start to look at the memories of the person who's no longer here, You have no choice but to check the memories of yourself. And that should be motivation for change, motivation to go get, motivation to stop doing or to start doing. But either way, you never get to see tomorrow. And for some, you may close your eyes and never open them up on this plane again. You don't know when that time is coming. You don't know when that last blink is it. Now, some people have been blessed with the luxury of being able to know it's time. And luckily, hopefully, luckily enough, they've had somebody in their presence who loves them to be able to say goodbye in a proper way. But not all of us get that opportunity. Many of us die alone. And then it comes down to what you believe on the other side, but we're not going to have that conversation right now. But what I want you to understand, you are who you are right now. But that doesn't mean you have to stay that way. And if you need my help, let's get on a call. Let's talk. This is what I do. I do it daily. I don't have any sessions today, so don't call me today. And I don't have any sessions tomorrow. I'm off this weekend. I worked hard this week. But I understand. And I make sure I fill myself with enough to be able to understand whatever you bring to me. Because there's nothing worse than asking somebody for help. And then they look at you and they can't do anything for you. And you wind up having to help them when you came to them for help. And some of us have been to counselors or therapists and have gone through the same thing. You have literally went to somebody for help and you're there now having to coach them or teach them. No, I keep this as sharp as I can. My only fear of death is coming back reincarnated. I get you. And if that's the belief, I understand. But here's the question. And if that's the fear, then the question becomes, what are you doing now based on that fear to put yourself in the best position? So if you do believe in reincarnation, how does that affect the choices you make now? Because there's varying versions of thoughts on reincarnation. So if you believe that you are reincarnated based on how you lived your life now, this can't be it. I want to go home. I got you. Well, the question becomes, what do you do now until that time comes? Because the only way you'll know if reincarnation is real is when you're actually reincarnated. So what is it that you believe now that will allow you to be able to say, you know what, I need to do those things now. So if and when I come back, I'll come back in this frame if you have that belief that you do. See, that's why I'm open to all conversations. I like whatever people believe in. People who believe in reincarnation, myself as a Christian, believe in heaven. Some people, listen, they believe in what they believe in. And I'm with that. I think the answer to the question is do what is uncomfortable, always. And that's the thing. It's always uncomfortable. Everything that you start off with new is uncomfortable until you get a feel for it. Then it gets more comfortable. Some things may never be completely comfortable, but we all have to do what's uncomfortable. That's actually what learning is. Look at it. Babies fall over trying to learn how to walk. It's not comfortable. But in time, they start running. Very comfortable. They don't come out of the womb knowing how to walk. They come out of the womb with all of the potential to know how to run. And some will come out the womb knowing how to run and go on to the Olympics and win gold medals. So we all have that in us. The question is, what do we do? And I appreciate the responses. I like that. Thank you so much for chiming in. So I don't know who needed to hear this today. And I appreciate anybody that's watching today. And if you need me, reach out. You can hit me in my inbox, or there's a link in my bios if you're on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, wherever you want to get on a discovery call, or just hit me up directly. Just say, hey, I want to be able to reach out to you and set something up. Let's go. Because this is what I do for a living. Not just getting on here on social media like this. I am a real counselor. I am a real person that sits down and tries to solve the problems of people who are in need. I come here to let you know that because things come to mind. I am trans-abled, so I will be the best athlete on the special. Okay. And I wish you success. I think the mindset of all of us has to be on our greater selves. And death actually can propel us forward in that aspect, because when people are not here, depending on how they went, we can use that as, oh my God, I need to do, and that can be the extra motivation. Sometimes that can be the linchpin to everything in your life changing. Go look and see how much changes after death. Look at how seatbelts were put into cars after death. Sprinklers were put into properties after death. Look at the restrictions. Look at the things that happens after death. It opens up the door to change. Personal, spiritual, financial, emotional, whatever. All right, guys, listen, I've been on for 31 minutes. That's longer than I need to be, longer than I plan to be. But again, I want to say thank you to all of you that watch. Make sure that you like this. Make sure that you share this. Make sure you tell somebody about me. Reach out. I would love to, like I said, get on a call with them and be able to do what I want to do. And if you're interested, we don't know what happened before death, so let's forget about after death. Was that let's forget after death? Well, we do know, I know one thing before death. We do know what happened before death because we were here with them. Now, after death, we don't know. That's why if we're still on this plane, meaning the plane of the living, it is on us to take the memories of the person that was here and use that to a positive, even if it was a negative in the way that they went. There's still positive that can be extracted in a way that can help propel you to a higher level. We don't know. It's a pattern. That's one way to consider it. So we have to look at what we do know, and that's ourselves. We know ourselves. That's the problem. We are not being the glitch. I'm not sure I understand what the second part. Create the glitch in terms of the way we do it, because again, all we can control is ourselves. And you have the opportunity to not fit into a particular pattern. You can actually change the pattern by changing the way you think and then changing what you do. There are some things that are going to stay consistent around you, but you don't have to stay consistent. There's nothing new under the sun. Yes, there is something new. You and every person born is new. You can change your thinking, which is new. You can create something that's never been seen, because if you created it, it's new. There may be others like it, but if you created it, it's new. There's always something new, because each of us has the ability to create something new. So yes, there's new things under the sun, but we may have seen varieties of that particular thing, but there's always an opportunity to create something new. This live is new. I created it. We're interacting. That's new. Are conversations new? No. Is this platform new? Fairly, compared to the other ones. But at the end of the day, this conversation, and I drill down to some of the minimal parts. I don't get caught up in the gigantic parts, because you do that and the world starts to gobble you up. Mathematically speaking, every combination must have been done by now. Not necessarily, because infinity is infinity. So it would be very difficult to try to figure that out, because mathematically, if we're still here, those numbers are still changing. But I don't argue with you. I just disagree. But I think at the end of the day, if you shrink it down to a smaller conception of who you are, who I am, and what we do, that's the newness. That's the uniqueness. And if we take that uniqueness and we run with it, we now give the world something it hasn't seen, a new version of yourself. All right, guys, I got to get ready to go. Thank you so much for the interaction. I love it. What's your name again? Flash your name back up there again. I forgot to look at your name, and I always want to address somebody by their name because I love this conversation. Blocky, blocks off. Okay, Blocky, I appreciate you. Be the glitch. Okay, I'm with that. Appreciate you, Blocky. All right, listen, have a good one, guys. Listen, if you're watching on Facebook, if you're watching on Instagram, if you're watching on YouTube, I appreciate you. Leave your thoughts and something in the comments. I'll make sure I hit you back. Let me go. I got some work to do this Saturday. I got to get some work done to get these progress reports done for this weekend. Also, I don't get paid if I don't do those progress reports. Well, I don't get paid from that source. Always have multiple sources of income. All right, guys. Later. Blocky, I hope you subscribe. I'd love to hear from you again. I love the conversation simply because it is how we learn. When we can converse with others who do not have the same philosophy as we do, that is how we learn. It is also how we respect each other. Blocky, I appreciate you. Have a good one. God bless, guys.